Hi, Stu.
Hello.
It's been so long, buddy.
I miss you.
I miss you too. How you been?
I've been good, thank you.
What's our Zach Wilson status right now? How are we feeling?
You know, it's funny you brought this up, Mina. I was telling Dan before that you have to make bold NFL predictions or just bold sports predictions. Like, imagine if you were the person 6 or 7 years ago that said, hey, you know what? One day Geno Smith is going to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. People would have laughed at you at the time, and then you move on, and then 7 years later.
They did laugh at me.
Well, there you go. 7 years later, you're proven right. You throw it in everyone's face. Okay? That's what you do. And if you're wrong, everyone forgets about it. All right? I've made a career out of doing this. And so I am going to say I want to own this prediction, okay, Mina, that at some point in Zach Wilson's career, he will be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
You laugh now. That's the point.
What are you doing?
That is a good point.
Bold NFL predictions, Dan.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you guys should tape Stu giving that exact take about all 32 quarterbacks in the NFL right now.
Yeah.
Just like 60 seconds of him saying Jake Browning is going to be the MVP. Boom. Desmond Ridder is going to be the MVP. Boom. Nick Mullins. And then bank them or put them out there. Nobody will know. Put them on YouTube somewhere. Then when one of those things actually happens, you can reach back. We will praise him as Nostradamus. Or do you have like a prediction name for you?
Nostradamus.
Yeah,
right, I knew that. Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah. And nobody will remember the 31 other incorrect takes.
So
bingo.
We've done this before for March Madness, where Stugotz goes through the entire field and tells you that this is why they're going to win, having not watched any of them play basketball.
Right, yeah. How about this one, Mina? Bryce Young is going to be better than C.J. Stroud. How about that?
Yes!
And the beauty of that, no one is going to care unless it's correct.
Thank you.
Well, Amin was pointing out, Mina, I don't know if you heard about this, but I believe that Amin Al-Hassan had what was the single greatest prediction, not just here in the history of our show, but in the history of predicting all things. Amin Al-Hassan, listen to what he said, dismissed by Chris Whittingham, before Geno Smith did anything for Seattle. In that time where everybody was saying, oh, he beat out Drew Lock. Isn't that funny? They don't have any quarterback at all. Geno Smith stinks. Give me the sound of Amin Al-Hassan and then get me the stats to see how close Amin Al-Hassan came to be exactly right on what he predicted Geno Smith would do before the season even started.
I submit to you 4,000 yards for Geno Smith.
Impossible.
30
Impossible.
30 tutties, 11 INTs.
I will sit. I mean, if that exact stat line happens, I will sit and do this show in my underpants. There is no way.
Clip that.
Career 34 touchdowns, 37 interceptions.
You should have to
better
do
than
the
half.
episode from your bathtub.
34 career touchdowns.
Why not? I'll do a show. I'll do a show from my bathtub if Geno Smith does this.
Free yourself, King.
All right, let me write that down.
With the bath
4K.
4,000. What'd you say? 32 touchdowns, 11 interceptions.
30 and 11.
30 and 11.
Yeah,
30 touchdowns, 11.
I will do the show.
I mean, it's attainable.
30 tutties.
I will do the show from my bathtub if this happens.
Geno Smith finished the season with 4,282 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions.
Genius.
What?
Genius.
Guys.
And
Yeah.
Chris
Are you
Whittingham
serious?
never did a show from his bathtub.
Guys, I mean, this is really embarrassing. Like, I wish I hadn't prepared a statement like off the top of my head, but I'd like to thank Geno Smith for being the guy that I believed in.
For doing it.
I'd like to thank the Dan Le Batard Show for giving me the platform to have that prediction. I'd like to thank my parents for it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here today. And God for giving me so much clairvoyance.
It is amazing, correct, Mina? Like it
How
is.
has that not gotten more attention?
Well, I'm not an attention person. I'm
you-
behind the scenes kind of
Okay.
looking.
You pointed at the rafters and oh my gosh, that is an incredible prediction. I've never had a prediction like the most right I've ever been was when I was in junior high, and I remember saying Kurt Warner would be good.
Really?
I just yes. What
Kurt
was that
Warner,
year? 1999,
So
the
proud
year
of it.
he.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I was in I think I was in 8th grade, and I remember seeing the news on like Sports Center or whatever, and they were like, "Who is this guy? Arena football or whatever?" And my dad contested. I was like, "I don't know. I think he's gonna be pretty good," and I was right about that. But it's not documented, and I get no credit for it.
What are the things that you have said? What is the football opinion you've had that gets you chased around the most by people screaming at you or reminding Josh Allen?
This show, deservedly.
Well, this is funny that you should say this, Mina, because in the assessments of game managers and systems taking over the sport, and this one seems super important to me, that everyone paid to do the analyzing is super shitty at actually being able to know what makes a good quarterback. They can try, but the probabilities make it really hard to tell the difference between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy when you're setting up a system around them.
Dan, if I may help in this regard, I feel like people want to know predictions. Like, hey, do you think Josh Allen's going to be good? And then talking heads and analysts say their thing, and then when they're right, we're like, okay. When they're wrong, so you were wrong, but you never ask the correct question, which is, why were you wrong? So, Mina, what were you wrong about on Josh Allen? Like, and why did you have those conclusions?
I've talked about this quite a bit. There's things I think when I revisit why I thought he wasn't going to be good, which was the mainstream NFL take at the time, in my defense. I was putting a lot of precedent on his college career. I watched Josh Allen in college. He was not the same player. He was inaccurate, and he was inaccurate when he came into the NFL, by the way. And I thought accuracy didn't change. I didn't think a quarterback could become markedly more accurate. Now we have a couple of examples in him and Jalen Hurts, I would say, of quarterbacks whose improvement arc is not something that has a lot of precedent in NFL history. And so now when I look at these quarterback prospects like an Anthony Richardson, who was his accuracy was spotty in college, I'm much more wary of being definitive about their capacity to improve. I will say with Allen, and I've talked to people in the NFL about this, and Jalen Hurts, they have a shared quality that I think we on the outside can never quite measure, which is the desire to improve. Both of those guys worked their asses off to get better, to get more accurate, to improve at the quarterbacky stuff that they weren't as good at in college. And I, as an analyst, that is just something that is very hard to gauge.
And to that point, Mina, that goes for the talent evaluators too, because the teams, you're trying to figure out, does this kid love football? That's the one that they always ask. But guess what? If I'm trying to get drafted, guess what my answer is to, do you love football? I love it more than anything. They all say that. They all, and everyone that you ask in their support system, they're college coaches, they're high school coaches. They're all going to say the same thing because they want to be affiliated with this thing that is they think is going to be a big success. The problem is there is no way, as Mina just said, for us to go inside someone's brain and figure out, do you really care about it? How much do you care about it? What she just talked about for Hurts and Allen, that's the golden goose, really. That is the last frontier of scouting. It's, you got your medicals, you can even do the psych testing and all that stuff.
Do they really care?
Do they really give a shit about this?
Right.
And ultimately,
nearly impossible to know.
It is impossible. They just have to do it.
And those guys were like, touched by God with physical talent.
Sure.
So it's the combination. I mean, there's a lot of guys in the NFL who really get it and never come anywhere close to touching those heights. But I mean, we're always talking about, the media gets it wrong. Most of these teams get it wrong when it comes to quarterbacks. Look at the hit rate over the last few years. It's just very hard to project. And that's something I've come to accept.
And then there's something else that goes within that, which is sometimes the guy does care. And sometimes maybe he does have the skills. But the coach he plays for, or the system, or the team, or the environment isn't congruent and isn't a good situation for them. So they have to go somewhere else. And then it's like, wait, he was always this good. Why wasn't he this good here? There's millions of reasons of why it didn't work here. That doesn't mean it won't work anywhere else, but we kind of ignore all those things as well.
Happened with Geno Smith.
I knew.
Mina, we were discussing game managers before. Why is that an insult? Why is being called a game manager an insult?
Well, I think it depends on how you interpret the term, but I feel like the most common interpretation when someone says a quarterback is a game manager, which is different from being a system quarterback, by the way, is a quarterback who plays conservative, who checks it down a lot, who leans on the production of his teammates more than creating on his own. I would say a guy who doesn't elevate the players around him, but can run an offense. That's how I've always thought of the term. I think that's why when Cam Newton called a wildly diverse group of quarterbacks game managers, people took such offense to it because it is derogatory. I know there's some debate over whether or not it's positive or not. I don't think it's like it's not like damning. You're not saying a quarterback stinks, but it's not a compliment. Like anyone who says it's a compliment is lying.
However, in the modern system, Mina, where Josh Allen's recklessness is what keeps him from winning football games, I do believe that
he's also won a bunch, though.
I know, but from there you can describe that as a skill set that coaches think of as a compliment. He protects the football is the same version of game manager. And my main chief goal here is to make sure we don't have turnovers. It doesn't mean that you've got a player who can make giant plays, but they really seem to value not making turnovers more than they do other things.
Well, I would say Josh Allen's defense is what has kept him from winning big games, not his turnovers. When you look at the really big games where they've lost in overtime, more often than not, it's not been Josh Allen's fault in his defense. I think, the dream is you have a quarterback who pushes the ball downfield, takes calculated risks, makes plays, and also doesn't turn it over. There are quarterbacks like that in the NFL. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is, the apex or whatever. But when you look at the top 5 or 6 guys, they do have both of those qualities, Stan. I think with Allen, the question is always like, okay, how you have to accept that with these plays, because of the nature of his play, the aggression, whatever, you get some of that. At what point is the risk dial turned a little too high? I think generally, by and large, over the last few years, it's been fine. Obviously, his turnovers have cost them in a couple of high-profile moments, but for the most part, you have gotten extraordinary quarterback play out of him, especially lately, by the way. He's been balling out.
Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, can you further roast Chris Cody for his take about Tony after Sunday's game? He said that the call was a mistake and it should have never been called, and we all said no, he was offside. He was lined up.
Wait, what's his logic?
My take is that it was like a toenail over, and that this blue line, if you take that blue line away, it's just like
Chris, let me cut you off. His take is he had money on the Chiefs.
No, if I freeze every line of scrimmage, I can find that a lot. And it's just bullshit after last week when there's a no call on the most egregious PI call, and then that's what we're going to call. It's just horse crap.
Okay, that's a terrible take, but you did say something that I think is worth acknowledging. Everybody was really mad at Patrick Mahomes for freaking out at the refs after. And I get it. He sounded, the person who should be mad at him is Josh Allen, because we went up to him after the game and he was like complaining about the refs. You could see, when like someone is freaking out and they want you to freak out and you want no part of it. Josh Allen's face is so funny in that interaction. He's dude, I don't want any part of this. It's like, this is so awkward.
I want to get out of here, right?
I know. It's like, or like when someone, like you work with someone and they like aggressively want to talk shit about like their the boss or something, and they're trying to bring you in and you are just like have no interest in being part of that conversation. That is what Josh Allen looked like in that moment. However, the thing I want to say in Patrick Mahomes' defense, which Chris, you kind of alluded to here, his case was like, he's like, I don't like it when refs decide games in big moments. He said that exact same thing the prior week when he was asked about the no DPI, which was an egregious DPI. So I will say Mahomes has been, I don't think, and this was really pointed out, he's been consistent about this. He was wrong. It was an obvious offsides. I don't know, Chris, like that was like one of the more glaring offsides I've ever seen.
but that's like the center's like the ball's lined up and then the center takes the ball when he gets there and they have like an inch or two to like move it back a little bit. Like you could make the argument when the ball was laying down, it was where the foot was, but the center grabs the ball, puts it like upwards. And then I'm just like, we're talking about big 6 inches here. It just was, it's bullcrap.
All right, listen, Chris Cody.
You just went from like 1 inch to 6 inches. You're
somewhere between 1 and 6 inches.
It's almost like guys exaggerate size.
Chris Cody, there's no such thing as a 5'11" man. Chris Cody, listen to me. I want you, as punishment for how terrible, how terrible that take is. This is what I would like.
This helped the Dolphins.
What I want because there's a lot that you're doing as executive producer today, and I want to stack more demands on you. Jessica is going to ask Mina a question. Mina is going to answer that question. By the time Mina is done answering that question, I want from you a song that celebrates someone being terribly wrong with their sports opinion, and then I want to hear audio for a terribly wrong sports opinion. And the clock is on you right now.
I have to call Yeti.
No, right now. The clock, at the end of Mina talking, I want to hear those two things.
Mina, okay, this is my question. Chris, start writing. Get a pen. Come on. Given
a long answer?
Yes, take your time. Given how the officiating has been, that a lot of, not just Patrick Mahomes, but a lot of fans are complaining about this season too, the inconsistencies, given the comments this week about potentially outlawing the hip drop tackle next season, or that being something that the NFL is going to look at, how do you think that officiating around that is going to go, if that's now something that the refs are going to emphasize?
Yeah, I think they'll just call it like they see it. All right, go, Chris.
Oh, my God. She says go right now.
Are so wrong, are you wrong? You are so wrong, are you wrong? You are so wrong, are you wrong? You are so wrong, are you wrong?
Chris, come on.
You are so wrong, are you wrong? 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 You are so wrong, you are so wrong.
Amazing.
45 seconds. He came up with all that.
Do you have audio of anybody being extraordinarily wrong?
You could just run Chris back from a few minutes ago.
It's one thing I learned about having a kid is I do have to make up songs on the fly, which I've never done that before. Never been a performer or a singer or a rhymer or a poet or an improviser in any sense. But there's only so many times you can sing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star before you start kind of remixing your own version of it.
Right.
And then you just find yourself reaching for the worst rhymes. Yeah.
Mina, the good news is they can't tell. They're going to be fascinated by anything you do.
Chris, you think it's okay? Because I'm rhyming Nino with Mina, which is my kid's name, and I'm like, ooh, that didn't really track.
No.
Looking at me.
Mina, I think the weirder you get with the rhymes and the stranger stuff is, the cooler your kid is going to be.
Interesting. Okay. Well,
no one's going to back me up here. In a room full of freaks, no one's going to be like, yeah, go for it.
What are you talking about?
Mina's interesting.
I don't want him to learn come out of this thinking that star rhymes with fart or whatever I say to him. I want him to have I pronounce a lot of words wrong, and I think it's because I didn't know how they were pronounced for a lot of my life, and I've been shamed for it as an adult.
Like what?
Same.
Words you read but have never heard aloud. Give me one.
I've mentioned this. On my very first date with my husband, I was like, I'll have the broccoli rabe, confidently ordered the broccoli rabe.
No. That's wrong.
Confident. Although, maybe he was, that's like, what do they say about like you should play dumb or something? It's like the toxic kind of like
and a little giggle. Oops.
Got him. Trapped. Here we are.
Now we actually do have, after that imaging, we have to have a submission, and we will see how long it takes for someone on our show to beat this. Right now, currently, the leader in the clubhouse for most wrong is this clip from Get Up and Mike Greenberg.
Thrilled that the Jets did not trade for Tyreek Hill. Had the Jets made that deal, I would have been dismayed by it. Am I right or wrong? Should I have wanted Tyreek Hill?
No, you should not have wanted Tyreek Hill. When a trade like this happens, ask yourself, which of these two teams is smart and which of these two teams is not, okay? The Chiefs have been extremely successful for almost a decade now under Andy Reid because they don't do stupid things. The Dolphins, meanwhile, traded everything and then paid him as the highest paid receiver in the history of the NFL. That's not the kind of thing smart teams do. He's a 28-year-old wide receiver whose game is solely reliant upon speed, who's played the entirety of his prime with Patrick Mahomes. You're paying 150 cents on the dollar.
I think you are completely right. Brian Flores got fired because he doesn't think Tua Tagovailoa is a great player. And you know what? That's because Tua Tagovailoa is not a great player. But you know who has to justify that pick? The man who made it. So the general manager, who will forever be the guy who took Tua instead of Justin Herbert, when Justin Herbert is standing on the stage in Canton, Ohio, getting his Hall of Fame jacket because he's going to be the best quarterback in the league for the next 10 years, and Tua is going to be a backup somewhere, that the general manager is going to know he was wrong and the owner is going to know. But in this particular case, the general manager convinced the owner I was right and the coach doesn't believe in him. So the Dolphins, in my opinion, made a terrible deal. I am thrilled the Jets didn't make it, and I agree with you. I think Kansas City got it right.
It's amazing.
It's like,
Mina, how wrong was he?
It's like Wade and LeBron.
There are like 30 different takes packed into that 15. I don't even know which take. Like, I mean, you have to acknowledge the take to time ratio there, which is something we should measure like war. Is
TTR.
Through the roof. Yeah. I didn't think Hill would be this good in Miami. I didn't think, first of all, he's historically good right now. What he's doing is like literally never been done. So
hold on a second. Mina, why, Lucy, Charlotte, why are you tears laughing back there? What happened?
Charlotte just sneezed and her headphones came off. They fell to the floor. I can't stop crying.
She's like a cartoon.
Do we have
character.
video of that? I would like to see it.
Please tell me we have video of that.
We did not catch that.
She's in the background there. There must be like a fuzzy headphones
Lucy,
flying off.
through tears, please explain your dog question to Mina, please.
Mina, I've been having kind of a rough day at work until Charlotte sneezed and her headphones came off.
Rough. Well done.
Thank you. So this weekend I am renting a dog. So I'm going to the shelter and signing out a dog for the day so that they can go out in public and, you know, wear their little Adopt Me like collar, and so that they can get exposure outside of the shelter. And then I have to turn them back in like 6 hours later. And everyone said that was really mean of me to do because I'm giving the dog false hope. And I think
It's not an orphan.
it's find a home. I'm helping the process.
It sounds like you're pimping the dog.
I'm not pimping the dog. They're pimping out the dog.
You literally, you're like,
She's
I'm
a
gonna
John.
get him gussied up, take him out to the streets, advertise his services, try to make him attractive to a buyer, and then take him back.
Yes, but not attractive to her.
It is a shelter.
Literally the definition
It's a pretty
of pimping.
classic definition of pimping.
That's what they ask you to do.
What is
too.
the dog wearing? Are you making him wear something?
So they give you
Fishnet.
like a little Adopt Me like harness. So it'll say Adopt Me all over it. They ask that you take it into a public place and you take pictures. And I'm excited, and everyone thinks it's really cruel, but
It's
I'm
evil.
pumped.
Yeah.
The
Sorry,
alternative
I'm just
is
now
it sits
thinking
in a
of
cage all
Lucy
day.
with the dog, all gussied up. Lucy's wearing a fur coat in my mental image,
fedora.
sitting, not to like lean on stereotypes here, but I guess I just did, sitting about like 6 yards away from the dog, watching the dog, because you don't want people to think you own the dog and the
That's why
dog's
it's got the
unavailable.
Adopt Me stuff on it. So it'll have like Adopt Me clearly
Fishnet.
written on the harness. I've done this before. I didn't like adopt a dog for a hike, but I got to go on a hike with a bunch of shelter dogs, and they all had like Adopt Me leashes and collars and harnesses on. So it just says Adopt Me all over it, and they encourage you to like go out and meet people so that they pet the dog and maybe they want to adopt the dog. So I feel like I'm gonna have a great day, and I feel like I'm doing a good
Jessica,
thing.
why are you mouthing terrible?
Everyone's being so mean to Lucy and this poor dog.
I'm supporting Lucy.
The poor dog. I
Think
mean,
about
it gets
the poor dog when
Right.
at the end of the day when it's like, oh, this was
But
fun, right?
think
Back
about,
to the kennel.
Think about
Exactly.
Lucy, who has a social media following, who can post this dog.
What if it gets
and
adopted
can
because
get
she took it out?
Yeah. Also, you
know-
don't like not go on vacation because it's gonna end.
It reminds me of
Mine
my
never ends.
idea for a television show, which I've pitched to numerous people, and everyone always says, brilliant, but too mean, which is,
Go on.
okay, yeah.
You have my attention.
Tell me you wouldn't watch this show. Take a shelter dog. He spends a week with one family, second week, it's a TV schedule, so it'd probably be like 3 days, with another family. Then, and you tape everything. Then, in the conclusion,
Great idea.
you go out to a field, you put one family on each end of the field, you put the dog
in the middle.
In the middle. Then you see tagline, who will he choose? CHEWS.
Yeah.
Tears, children, family.
Yes.
One family, overjoyed.
Gotta be
dog.
family.
Yes. Excellent
Yes.
Do
work.
not watch that.
The Mina Kimes Show featuring Lenny. You should check out her podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Joe Flacco's going to win 3 Super Bowls.
Thank you, Mina. We appreciate it. Juju is outside cooking up his Thursday Thunder. He will storm in here. We're always, for some reason, we're very disorganized. It's a company of creatives. We're always up against it. We're never on time. Things are always moving too fast. Juju will be here in moments with a desperate and surgically planted Thursday Thunder. As soon as he finishes it, he's not ready to do it right now, and we're up against the deadline. That will be at the end of this segment.
It is Thursday.
I understand. Yes, it's Thursday. That thunder in general is a warning. I'm warning you right now that in about 8 or 9 minutes, Juju will come running in here and save the day. But before I do that, the pandemic and all the things happening in the world and in the country, I would imagine anxiety aplenty everywhere, mental health issues everywhere, all over our country and world. Draymond Green has now been suspended indefinitely. And the part of that story that was most interesting to me is the league is now going to get him help and counseling. Draymond is pretty introspective. He sold his introspections to Prime, a documentary where he's talking about the doing of therapy. Now, help and counseling, what do you imagine that looks like? I don't know if there's some sort of mental health crisis going on with Draymond Green. The suspensions seem to be something that happened to him a great deal because he can't control his anger. But his anger has been used as a tool for everything good that he's gotten in basketball. He funnels and channels all of that stuff pretty well. Cost them a championship, his anger, and he didn't learn whatever needed to be learned. Cost them a championship. His inability to control the way that he plays basketball. So when he's getting help and counseling, do you think he's doing so with defiance? Do you think he's doing so, hey, I need help here? Do you think this is something he's doing willingly, or is this the league trying to control optics?
I think this is a situation where the league, I don't think anybody really knows what to do at this point, because I think that it's gotten to such a point with Draymond where he is clearly punishment. We talked about this on Oddball every weekday but Mondays, about how nothing has made him realize, oh, I shouldn't do this. Even his apology, his quote apology to Yusuf Nurkic the other night was like, I normally don't apologize, but this time I didn't actually mean to do it, so I guess I will apologize. It was a weird thing to say, and I think
what happened there, Chris?
Mm-hmm. No, they were just playing a B-roll clip,
question.
and there was a little audio there over it. It was labeled B-roll, so we thought there would be no sound.
Thursday Thunder.
That's A-roll.
Say what you were saying then again, Charlotte. Thank you, video.
I thought I acted quickly there. I got that thing off quick.
Yeah, you did an amazing job, Chris. No, just that, clearly nothing's gotten through to him, and he...
So, okay, let me just be clear here. So we are now celebrating that Chris did his job well by stopping Charlotte mid-thought with a sound that was
He left the pot open to begin with.
I'm cool with that.
I hit it down when the sound came on, and I was like,
know.
that shouldn't be here. Get out of here,
He
sound.
did. He moved.
Charlotte's talking right now.
Great job.
And Roy gave him a very formal handshake.
This is the Metal Arc way here of congratulations, you only let a little incompetence leak out on him.
Not all of it.
100%.
Not all of
There
it.
you go. Take that victory lap, Chris. There you go.
Just about 40%. Yeah.
Do your thing.
Big day for you, Chris.
Do you know how easy it is to distract Charlotte? Is everyone...
Yeah. Again, I'm distracted. Ah!
You were saying...
I don't know. You tell me, Dan.
your thoughts on, is he going in defiantly? Because I don't know how well therapy works if it is forced upon you.
You have him kicking and screaming going into therapy? You go to therapy because you want therapy.
If you have to save your job and salary because it's part of what your indefinite suspension is going to get it reduced.
I think maybe it starts that way, but eventually you sit down and you say, you know what? This is productive. If I just open my mouth, embrace this, and talk, it's productive.
You know, what came to mind was John Mulaney's stand-up, where he talks about the intervention happening, where he doesn't know why he's coming, and then when he walks in the room, he's like, "Oh, you guys are doing this to me?" And I think there's a little bit of that with Draymond. We talked about that on Oddball, just the idea that it's, like Charlotte said, every one of these incidents, he's got an answer, he's got an excuse, and at some point, the world sees it, but he doesn't. He's going to have that moment where he realizes, oh, I do have a problem. Is it a big problem? Is it a small problem? Is it fixable? Is it not? That's beyond the fact. It starts with understanding I've got a problem, because these aren't isolated incidents. As we talked about, he's been suspended 6 times. 4 of them have been in the last 9 months. 4 of them in the last 9 months.
I believe it would be pretty hard to convince a defiant man who is often rewarded for being contrarian, for always fighting others, for leaning into, I always have to fight you as part of his identity, rewarded at every turn with not just winning, but with podcasts and with platforms as he starts a media career. I think this is a really difficult person to convince he needs help, to admit that he needs help. I'm not sure he agrees with that.
Well, no, I don't think he does, but I feel like a lot of it could come from his teammates. I feel like Steph and Clay, they have a bond that's about as deep as you can get as teammates. And I feel like so much of their success as a team has been Steph being like, no, Draymond's our backbone, Draymond's our soul. And maybe those guys are the guys who can get through to him and say, I know that we've praised you for this. I know that this has been what has gotten us the championships. But at this point, it's gone past the point of being helpful. And I think we got to reel it back in.
The term grow up is being used a lot with Draymond Green. Growing up is hard, man. Like, it really is. It's super hard because the things that he is, the things that he does, the value he has for that team, it's emotion. It's getting in someone's face. It's occasionally getting kicked out of games. And people are asking him to change what it is he's done his entire life, his entire career. And growing up is really, really hard. Like, all of a sudden you want Draymond Green to turn that off and not be that guy? That's difficult. He starts to wonder, will the guys like me as much as they used to? Do I still have the same value? That stuff is difficult, man.
I would say if you identify as anything as part of your personal identity, and I would think that defiance is something that he thinks as a positive, a fuel. And now he's being told, no, not so much. We need you to alter that. Just don't get suspended. But the thing that becomes harder there to control, Stugotz, is throw in losing, frustration, and now aging. He got his money when he punched his teammate in the face. He survived all of that. The team chose him and that. Jordan Poole, get out of here. You're not that. You got your money. And now none of us trust you to actually behave like a champion. Go play for the Wizards. We're going to keep the champion. But also, aging. Mm-hmm. Aging is in here too. The job that he does, the way that he does it, is going to be harder as he physically ages, because being more physical than anyone else when you're undersized and playing defense the way that he does, he has to be rabid. The defense he plays, right. You're always talking about effort on defense. Like, you're off... his defense, he is almost an unprecedented defensive player, but he can't be that into his late 30s. Like, that body is not going to be able to do all of those things. Already, he's past his prime, indisputably, correct?
I would say he's past his prime. He's not as good as he was earlier, but I think he's still excellent. But I think, to your point, part of that excellence requires a dose of that crazy that sometimes makes you cross the line and punch somebody in the face.
But the game can't back it up anymore, maybe. And that's hard to deal with mentally.
I think he's still an excellent defensive player. I think the energy and the mindset required to be that as an undersized guy is hard, and require someone who's almost crazy. We're asking the raging fire to just not burn down this building over here, but burn down everything else around it. It's you're asking for precision, surgical tactics with something that's blunt.
It's not just that you're asking, though. It's people like me and Adam Silver, okay? People who look like me and Adam Silver, or whatever critics look like, okay? It's not just that that's the request, Stugotz. The other bonus request is we as people, I'm going to speak personally for me.
Okay.
Not for Adam Silver?
Just for me.
Oh, give it a try, Dan.
A rebound. You're throwing an elbow near my face. Yeah, no, don't want to do this. This is not something, never mind for a living, don't want to do it once. What, Jokic wants a rebound and is comfortable just swinging his elbow? No, thank you. I'll choose another career.
And he doesn't care if his elbows bleed.
I'm guessing that it's okay to be angry if that's what you're doing. All right, sorry about that. Let's do the Thursday Thunder.
In the middle of a point.
John, here we are. Read the sponsors, Chris.
Thursday Thunder.
Good job.
Brought to you by DraftKings Sportsbook. You can follow our parlay on the DraftKings Sportsbook app.
Yes, man. I usually come in here, I hoop and holler, and I give you bad picks. I would like to personally apologize for the last batch of picks that I was responsible for. I care too much about the audience then to keep giving this lackluster effort. Me, bottom of my heart, accountability. Juju Gotti, I'm sorry for those picks.
Sorry, man. We're forgetting
Yeah. But these, though.
These picks.
We are back, John.
Sounds back.
I need my accoutrement.
There's the plastic sword, yes.
We are going over 26.5 yards for Quentin Butterfingers Johnson tonight. He will redeem himself, and he will get over his hump. Don Tanelius.
Wow.
Next one, we are going over 4.5 catches for Jacoby Myers. He's an expatriate. He has the Patriot way in his blood, which means he's a loser at times. But tonight, he will get it done. Trust me on this, guys, please, if you can. You dig me? And the last one, we believe in the fallen soldier, Justin Herbert, but we also believe in his replacement.
We do?
We are going Easton Stick over 189.5 yards tonight. He will get it done tonight, y'all. Please believe in us. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Trust these picks.
Your credibility is not strong here.
But he said sorry.
Yes,
he did apologize.
He has apologized. Not exactly what you want generally with your gambling advice. An apology.
Sorry about last week.
What, accountability?
Yeah.
I mean, here's
I'm
this
not
week.
sorry. TJ Watt's been averaging a sack a game. We also didn't get the other two legs of the parlay either, but
Why not?
because I suck at making parlays. But Juju,
So if someone
the
had
other
taken
hand.
the exact opposite of what we did, they would have won?
In the money, Diane.
Zagat.
Come on.